Hello guys, this is Raj PAKHARE, and in this video we're going to be working in particle flow and Fume FX to make this ground explosion. So as you can see, there are no rigid bodies in this. We have just only used particle flow. So let's get started. I'm going to start with a plane. And I'm going to assign a ground texture in the map, and I'll assign this texture. Assign it, and we can add a modifier, UVW map. Let's rename this ground, and then add a modifier, and I'll increase the tiling. Instead of modifying it in the material editor, it's better to modify on the modifier. So anytime you can just turn it off, on and off. And yeah, this is our ground. And now we're gonna create a emitter source. So I'm gonna start with my sphere and name this as explosion source. Alright, so no matter where you place this, the explosion will emit from this point. So I'm gonna remove some polygons which I don't need and modify it a little bit. So we can use the shape also for a speed from surface. I always have a habit to reset XForm whenever I scale anything. So it's always good to reset XForm always scaled objects. So I'm going to start with my particle flow. You can also press 6 on keyboard. And this is a particle view. I'm going to just hide my depot and description. Let's make some room. And let's start with the empty flow. I'm gonna name this particle flow ground explosion. And let's create a birth event. Connect it. And we gotta need a source, so we have to add a position object, add it in particle flow. Now you can see the particles are emitting from object. And then we'll need speed by surface. So I'm gonna add this sphere. You can define any mesh. And it's really good, like the way the mesh is made, the speed of this particles will be dependent on the mesh. So now you can see we got the particles moving. I'm going to assign the time to trigger the explosion. 1 frame is enough. Add some variation. Divergence. And we're going to need wind, gravity, and drag, and also a deflector. So always have a habit to just create these objects on the side so you can use it as you need. And for now we'll be requiring gravity. So I'm going to add a force, and in the force select gravity. As you can see, gravity is working now. We got to modify some parameters, increase the speed, reduce the gravity influence. And some variation. I think it's too much. Let's reduce it. Alright, so add a test. In this case, you can use a collision spawn also, as the particles will collide the floor and they'll spawn into smaller debris. And then we can add some shape to it. So for now, first let's add the shape. Now in the scene, I've already made some of my fragments. You can just create this in Rayfire. I just fragmented a box and just deleted the objects outside it. And this is what we get. So one is high resolution and one is medium. And these are some paper objects. I'm going to assign another texture. And to map it, add a UW map, maybe box. Works well. Or you can unwrap the individual object in a detailed manner. So it depends on you how close the shot is to the fragments. And this is a small paper, or you can say any leaves or any light objects floating in there after the explosion impact. I'm going to modify this. And I've just converted to editable poly. I don't know why in my capturing I can't see my right click menu. So let's continue. In our shape instance, we need to add a group. So I'm going to pick this and turn on to geometry. Select the display type as geometry. As you can see, it has calculated a single group. We don't need that. Turn on group members. Voila. So as you can see, it is only picking up the elements or object individually in the group. If you need elements, you can just tick mark the object elements option also. So it already started to look better. I'm gonna spin. So they spin as they explode. And you can add some variation. Variation is always good. And you're gonna need a test. In this case, collision spawn. So I'm gonna drag this up. I'm gonna create a deflector. We already have a deflector. So I'm gonna position it, center, length, and width. I'm gonna pick this in my collision spawn. And let's modify some parameters. I think we need to position our source a little bit higher than the deflector. There we go. Now what we want is whenever they collide, they should be passed over to a new event. I'm going to create a new event. I'm going to rename this as spawn and connect it to a test. Let's change the color. You can see whenever they collide, they go into another event. And as there is no force and speed, and again we need one more collision test so that the particles will collide in this event also. I'm gonna just drag this instance so we have gravity and collision, and as you can see the particles are spinning, and we can stop that by adding another spin, and you can just set this to 0. So as soon as they go into a different event, they'll stop spinning. Or you can add a stop operator. So this is a third party I've installed. You can go on scriptspot.com and you'll find many helpful scripts. So as you can see, I have to stop my rotation. I can modify how many fragments you want after they collide and how many % should be spawnable. And again, modify some parameters, inheritance, variation, as you can see they collide in the spawn, and can add spin, speed, and inherit previous. You can modify the speed and some variation and divergence. As you can see, as soon as they go in this event, they bounce because of the speed, and you can adjust as per you want. And I'm going to just drag my shape instance, make it as a copy so I can modify the size. And in this event I'm going to pick my median frags, as they will be a smaller fragment, so no need to add very high detail fragments. So it's always better to optimize your scene. 50%, maybe I should just keep it 100%, and increase the op strings. So as you can see, we collide, modify the deflector parameters. You gotta play it a lot and modify the parameters. That's the thing about the effects, like you have to see it 1,000 times and still you're not satisfied. Every time you gotta modify some parameters, play with it. It's fun. In this case, I'm gonna move my deflect a little bit up, as they are not rigid bodies, they're just particles, so it's calculating from a single point. So this is how you can cheat it. Just move it a little bit up. Position is wherever you want. Looks a little bit better. Now I'm gonna reduce it. Play it again. Looks okay. Now what we can do is we can create another event and send those particles to add more variation. So I'm going to name this as spawn small. So this will be a smaller fragments. I'm gonna duplicate this, shift and drag, and this will be my spawn large. So this will be the larger fragments. So how to split? So we're gonna add split amount. So 50% of the particles from this event will be in the another event spawn large, where you can define some large particles, large fragments to add some more variation. So just modify the parameters. I'll change the color so you can see these are from the event spawn large. We're gonna modify it a lot. I'm gonna set this more speed, variation, and more divergence. And yeah, they're too big. Reduce them. So yes, these particles are not spawning at all. So if you want, you can add a spawn event in this, but I would like to keep it like that. So these are the larger fragments which doesn't break. Smaller too. And yeah. And yes, at any moment you can just increase the amount of the particles. This is not a final file. I'm gonna add spawn if you want more particles. So as soon as they collide, as soon as they go in this event, they will be spawning. Play with the size. Looks better. So I'm gonna modify my divergence. So these are the larger fragments blowing up from the impact point, and you gotta adjust the speed as if actual explosion will make the debris fall apart. So it looks much more believable. I'm gonna rename this as large chunks. Duplicate. So once you create, you can just duplicate, keep on duplicating stuff and add more details. So this is my extra chunks, and I'm gonna connect it. Oops. Yeah, disable all so you can focus on this. So as you can see, they're going crazy. Delete. Reduce the speed. No need to have so many offsprings. And right now, yes, there's no connection with the collision spawn, so it's better to delete it. I'm gonna add just a regular collision. We don't want any spawn. Add deflector. Yeah, the spinning. No need. And I want these elements to fly up straight, so it will be a little different than our large chunks. And yeah, this is not 100%. It's better you just turn on 100% to see how many exactly particles do we have. so you don't mess up with your actual explosion field. So yeah, just keep on playing with the size and parameters, and I want it to go a little up and higher, not to spread so much. So maybe a bit more, and I'm gonna add a keep apart operator. Now what this does is it will try to avoid the particles to collide, so they'll stay away from each other, but we gotta do it in a different way. You can just turn on this force to -100. Well, I saw this technique on a Brandon Reza's tutorial, so it was quite helpful. And yeah, it looks like that the chunks are connected to each other, so they will stay close to each other, but the acceleration shouldn't be that much. So we gotta modify it, play with some parameters here. Reduce our variation, make it 2 frames. Yeah, and geometry, and I'm gonna increase the particles. Reduce the scale, is the variation. Yeah, that looks okay. And modify some deflector parameters. Let's turn on other events and see how it's coming up. Not bad. As you can see, we need to modify this a little bit. It will go a little higher, so other events, other chunks are spreading out. And this one is rising up, and it's gonna fall down a little late. So this is the exact ground surface which is above the bomb. So it is throwing up this in the air, so it should rise up very high. Save, make sure you save your files, and yeah, duplicate to add more and more stuff. So this will be my light chunks, so this can be your leaves, paper, or smaller debris or lightweight stuff. Let's turn off all events. Let's focus on this, and we gotta pick a object instance. So this will be my paper object. It's quite small, and we gotta need spin. Modify the influence. As it's a lighter object, it shouldn't be affected by gravity that much. And I'm going to copy my force, remove my gravity, and add my wind. So in the wind, you can add a direction as well as the turbulence, which is the most important thing for the light objects. Wind is never linear at all. It always has a turbulence. So turbulence, and we got to play a lot with the wind parameters. We should just pump this value. Keep a high frequency for faster cycles of the turbulence. And our explosion doesn't have much direction affected by wind, so we got to keep it a little low for this light paper objects. And yeah, just play with it. And for the light objects, the most important thing is a drag, as it will slow down your light objects. And make sure your on-off timing is in the range. Influence 200, and modify the speed. I think the gravity is too much now. Or let's do one thing. I'm gonna erase and remove this drag from here and add in the wind. And increase the drag value. Yeah. Started to look a little better. Increase your timeline. Let's see. Okay. Now play with the size. Okay. Let's see with the other events. So I'm gonna preview this. Always preview your files because you can't see that in real time in viewport. So always preview. So this is with the default lights in the viewport. Not bad. But I think we gotta modify some parameters. And yeah, with Fume FX and all, it will look really cool. I wanted to rise a little bit higher, and there should be more particles. So, and the lighter particles, I think they're coming a little late, so it's better to just emit them for one frame. Play with the speed. And I'm going to increase the particles to 400 or maybe 500. So the center particles are 500 now. Now for the explosion, we're gonna need a shock wave. So as you can see in the video, there's a shock wave here for the Fume FX. So this event will be creating only exclusively for Fume FX. So we can add in the Fume FX and calculate. So this will be my Fume shock wave. And delete the stuff which you don't need. As we don't need the shape, because we won't be rendering this event. This will be only for the Fume FX. I'm going to connect it to my main particle source and turn off all the events. I think there's no need for speed by surface. We can just add a regular speed. Random horizontal, as it's a shock wave. Increase the divergence. And that's too much. We gotta need age for the particles. I'm gonna make this for 1, or maybe a little bit more. So as this will be calculated for a certain period in the Fume FX. Okay. Now I'm gonna add a P-flow afterburn. So this option is only available if you have installed afterburn, and this is a very important option. So you can pick the certain event in Fume FX, and I think the larger chunks will be added in Fume FX. So you can go ahead, tweak a little bit, and add miscellaneous, or you can just drag it and rename this. So this won't be my shock wave, this will be my Fume FX main. So this is our main explosion event for the Fume FX, followed by a shock wave. And go ahead, let's start with the Fume FX. So here we have a Fume FX container, and you can see I've created a particle source and I've picked my Fume main. As you can see, we don't have any fuel, as we'll be emitting only smoke. So add that, and you can see I've modified the radius a little bit. Smoke is right now 2, and the temperature is -50, as it's a dust, so it will fall down. And you can see I've turned off simulate fuel. Nothing much. As you can see, it's simulating quite fast. But the problem here is there's no life for the particles. They are not dying at all. As you can see, fume, it lasts long. So we gotta animate a smoke amount. So somewhere here, we gotta add a key, and here, make it 0. So it will start fading off, and yeah, let's preview. Yeah, the radius is quite okay. So as you can see, the smoke slowly starts to dissipate. Looks okay. So I'm gonna modify my temperature -150, so it falls down. As there is no heat, it's just a dust. You gotta give it a feeling like a dust, not a smoke. Yeah. Now the system, I just added opacity and turbulence. That's all, not much. And yeah, that looks okay. Maximum iterations I've made it 150. For the final, you can increase it. There's no need actually for this scene. So I'm gonna duplicate this. I'm gonna remove that and pick my shockwave. And this is my another fume container. I've just duplicated this and reduced the height. And I'm gonna pick this shockwave, and yes, it's added. Let's have a look. I think we gotta modify our particles. The shockwave is coming quite flat. So the temperature is -50 in this case. So as it's coming quite flat, we gotta modify a shockwave event. And let's have a look now. Okay. Keep on playing with the parameters till you get the desired result. And let's simulate. You can always display in the viewport to check the size. It's going alright. And I'm gonna add my ground. So this will be my deflector for the fumes. And yeah, ground. I'm gonna simulate. So as you can see, the fume is colliding the ground. I'm gonna adjust the size. opacity, and it's coming like, alright, let's modify the size and resimulate. I think there is more shockwave than the actual explosion, so we gotta play with that. The timing seems okay. I'll change the spacing. Yeah, and when you want the final output, you can just check lowering the spacing, because most of the times when you reduce the spacing and when you see the output is something different than what you saw previously. So always play with the spacing and check. And I'm gonna increase my particle count, resum it, reduce the radius, okay, it's looking something like this. The timing seems alright. Let's check with our actual explosion.
Reduce my spacing.
Again, increase my particle count, resum it, something like this. As you can see, using the negative gravity, negative temperature, the fumes slowly start falling down. And I'm gonna set my lights. I'm gonna add my Omni. Turn on the shadows. Yes, it's on. Pick the light. As the fumes are getting cropped just because of the grid size. But for checking your fume, it's always check in the small size. It won't take much time to simulate. And I'm gonna change the color, maybe to ground color. And here we go. Looking much better. Let's hide all the strikes. We don't need them. Reduce the spacing, increase the quality, it will look really good. add a, let's change our render to V-Ray. You can render fumes in V-Ray also. So I'm gonna just add ambient light and let's turn on the lights, select only, change it to V-Ray shadow map, render it. It's rendering much more faster. And let's turn on other layers and let's check. I'm gonna increase the particle counts. Just cross check everything. Yeah, it's a good explosion. No physics used. And let's focus our rendering. Its output is only with just one light. You can play with the lighting, add an environment. I prefer a motion blur in V-Ray. It gives a really nice motion blur on the Fume FX. Let's see the output. You can see the difference. Well, it might take a little bit more time, but you can see there's a lot of difference. See, or you can cheat in After Effects by using real smart motion blur, but that motion blur is not exact motion blur. This is like calculated as per the motion of the object. So I always prefer this, and just keep on playing with the parameters and you will get output like that. I've added some color correction in this, so it's up to you how you want the output. So well, yeah, this was a tutorial about the explosion by using particle flow. Hope you guys liked it. See you next time.